The big numbers eluding the emerging dancehall stars of today. Industry insider says he knows why. XXX Tentacion and Egyptian producer JonFX spells out what he thinks is missing from the music.
So during COVID, working with the international artists, I focused mostly on streaming.
Streaming, a big beneficiary of the pandemic, good for platforms like Netflix and Spotify. Much of producer JonFX's messaging at a recent music business talk shop in Kingston was about boosting recording artists' numbers where they matter most.
It's hard to be certified without Spotify numbers. When you go platinum, Spotify numbers are like 90%. Anywhere that subscribers pay, this is how the world works. Most people don't subscribe to YouTube Premium. And Apple numbers you cannot see, and Tidal numbers you cannot see. Spotify numbers you can see. So when someone sees that now, everyone wants to know how these songs go gold and how these songs go platinum, and how do we go gold and platinum?
Well, how do we? But we'll get to that. First though, what about JonFX's own numbers? What credits does he have to his name? Well, there's Gun Session with Akon, Cartel, Sizzler and Shabba Ranks. Followed by the Cloud9 rhythm, prominently featuring Egyptian and I Wayne. He produced Egyptian's Nah Let Go and Sizzler's I'm Yours album.
What was the breaking point for me where I received a record that says produced by JonFX that went platinum and multi-platinum was a song I did called Arms Around You with XXXTentacion, Maluma, one of the biggest Latin artists, Sway Lee, and Lil Pump. So that record is actually Lil Pump's like second biggest record on Spotify, currently 500 and something million streams, and I produced that record. I actually wrote it too.
So not much coming our way in Spotify streams, and the proof, says JonFX, is in the musical pudding.
When we do records, we have to make it in a way where it is welcoming to the streaming audience. It has to be different. We're all tied up with the same drum sounds and the same sounds. So you have to create your own new audience. With Spotify, it's hard because most of our fan base is from Jamaica, and Spotify doesn't work as well as I think it should here in the Highlands. And plus, it's subscription based, and Jamaicans don't have it.
So you're making a comment about the sound of the music.
I would also admit, I used to be a beat maker growing up. I have evolved into a producer. What we have is mostly beat makers. Guy would just get a beat, take some loops off, splice or whatever, and they just give you some beats. What we need is producers who can sit and say, send me that vocal. Let me find the intro. Let me find the chord structure. Let me find what works around the voice. But what artists are doing, they're writing to the beat. But the song is about the song. We as musicians should write to the song. An example, if you go to Motown, a guy would come into a musician and go, dum, 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 dum. I got sunshine. That's how Bob Records were done to. He sat there with Aston Barrett Family Man and they made the song, so they're making the song around him. Not you get a bunch of beats and you have to write the song to the beat. Because then it takes out the musical elements out of it.
It's a topic that energizes him. There's a formula and you either get it or live with the consequences. But a new generation of music makers not necessarily bang what experienced industry hands like JonFX have to say.
So the younger guys, it's a bunch of lyrics. When you say a man is a bad artist, and they deserve it. Problem we have now is they don't have any melody. A bunch of words and no melody. Producers in Jamaica listen to a larger variety of music. That's what a producer does. So he knows I could take a lyrics, I know a little girl, her name is Maxie, and they'll do something like that. And then the verse come in, I'm not really want to, but then the world is hooking to the melody. They don't know what the verses are saying. It's like the Shaggy. Saw me calling on camera, it wasn't me. Party when you're still young, they're not really they don't know much of what he's saying, but they hook to the chorus. Shawty, you're my angel. So we need producers who have a wider span of music. That's where production comes in. You as a producer will be like, I need a musician. I need a musical vocal coach to help me to translate. We need more melodies in the song. But the songs are great that the young artists are doing.
But if you follow his argument, not Spotify ready, which is where a back-to-basics approach can produce results.
Intro, pre-hook, chorus, bridge. You know what I mean? Those were all in dancehall records, you know. All the dancehall records that we knew over the years, got somebody, all these records have this structure, you know. You know what I mean? Can't say boy, you know what I mean? And then the verses come in, then the chorus come in, then there's a bridge. You know, so although we're doing reggae, we have lost the way how to appeal to the international audience. There's some rudimentary elements that are needed in songs. This is where a real producer come in, not beat makers or beat buyers.
Some of these artists right now who are, you know, amongst the new wave and who have this sort of audience in Jamaica will tell you we don't need that, and we're not going back to a situation where a producer is calling the shots and telling us what to do.
Social media gave us a lot of ego. That's why. You know what I mean? There's a time when artists used to be humble to wait at the studio. And so now they have a guy send them a speaker with a laptop, they have a studio. That's another issue that we have, where we have to get into humility. Reggae used to be dominant, and the Czechs were very dominant. It's just that the sound has changed. So now what happens is there were more people partaking of reggae hits back then. There was a big old studio at Anchor, there's a mixing engineer, there's a producer sitting there were some musicians there, and there were people also helping with the artists and the vocals and all that stuff. Now when you're in your studio with your little artist friend, they're like, yeah man brother, yeah man that bad. That's not enough, because you're not experienced enough. You can get lucky. We're not looking for the lotto hits. If you put out 1 million songs, one of them will go. But many songs were structured properly, so they're surer to hit.
So your basic point is that the sound of the music has got to change. It's got to be a little bit more sophisticated. It's got to be better mixed, better mastered, better produced.
Yes.
For it to rack up the numbers you're talking about.
Visiting a casino, there's people who have a method in it, and it gives you a better chance of winning. I heard an artist said to me that you must put out a bunch of songs to trigger the Spotify algorithm. I said, what are you talking about? Most records from Jamaica that hit, they've been in the United States for 57 weeks. That's more than a year, and the records have to grow and have to grow. Your ears get tired of records after a while if it doesn't have the basic rudiments of music structures.
With JonFX, it's always about structure. It's his mantra, with good reason.
I use those techniques to have these platinum records, and I constantly get them now.
It's put a lot of money in your pocket. You're a millionaire?
Yes.
You say that unequivocally. You're a US dollar millionaire.
Yes. Something that we wouldn't normally say, but I want us to understand, us as Jamaicans, that it's there. I use our culture. It's me. I went to school here. I'm not some foreigner. I use our culture, but I grew with masters here. I worked at the studios and I sat and I learned and I took notes.
Is current Jamaican music and music production in a kind of crisis?
Yeah, definitely. And this is the meat of it. We're going to break it up. There's this thing, Afrobeat, and then there's dancehall. We have a thing where they're mixing them together. Jamaicans are a little upset and they don't know why.
Find out why, along with much more from industry insider JonFX next week.
If you're looking for me, you can find me on the block disobeying the law.